Titi envied Adenike's life. She wanted the comfort, the stability, and most of all, she wanted Shego. A plan began to form in her mind. It was devious, but Titi was determined to take Adenike's place. In a peaceful village in the western part of Nigeria, there lived a man named Shego. He was a wealthy farmer known for his kindness and generosity. Shego had a lovely wife named Nike, who was admired for her gentle nature and warm smile. They had a beautiful daughter named Abike, who was the joy of their lives. Every day, Shego worked hard on his farm, growing crops that helped feed the village. His farm was always full of healthy plants and tall trees. The villagers respected Shego because he treated his workers well and shared his harvest with those in need. Nike also worked hard at home, making sure everything was perfect. She was known for making the best palm oil in the village, which everyone loved. One evening, after a long day of work, the family sat together on their porch. The sun had just set, leaving a warm glow in the sky, and a cool breeze was blowing. Shego relaxed in his chair, enjoying the quiet of the evening. Abike sat close to her father, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Papa, how was the farm today?" she asked, eager to hear about his day. Shego looked at his daughter with a smile. "It was a good day, my dear. The crops are growing well, and the workers are doing a great job," he replied. His voice was filled with pride and happiness. He loved talking about the farm, especially with Abike, who was always interested in learning. Nike, who had been listening, nodded in agreement. "We are truly blessed," she said softly. "I made some fresh palm oil today. Would you like to taste it, Shego?" Shego's face brightened at the thought. "Of course, my dear. Your palm oil is the best in the village," he exclaimed, making Abike giggle. Shego always praised Nike's cooking and her skills, which made her happy. Abike looked at her mother with excitement. "Mama, can I help you with making palm oil tomorrow?" she asked, her small hands clapping with joy. She loved helping her mother with the house chores, especially making palm oil. Nike smiled warmly at her daughter and gently patted her hand. "Of course, Abike, you are always such a great help," she said. Nike felt proud of Abike's willingness to learn and help around the house. She knew her daughter would grow up to be a responsible and kind person. As the evening went on, the family shared stories and talked about their day. They laughed together, their hearts filled with joy and contentment. Shego felt immense pride as he looked at his wife and daughter. He knew he was blessed with a wonderful family, and he promised himself to always protect them. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Shego stretched his arms and said, "It's time for bed, everyone. We have another busy day ahead of us tomorrow." Nike and Abike agreed, and they all went inside their home, thankful for the peaceful life they shared. In the same village, there was a woman named Titi, who was Nike's friend. Titi and Nike had known each other since they were young girls. They grew up together, playing and learning about life. Titi often visited Nike's home, and on the surface, everything seemed fine. She would sit with Nike and chat about the old times, laughing and reminiscing about their childhood. But deep inside, Titi's heart was filled with jealousy. She envied Nike's happiness and the love she shared with her family. Titi was not as fortunate as Nike. Her life had not turned out the way she had hoped, and seeing Nike so happy made her feel bitter and resentful. One day, Titi came over for a visit. As she sat on the porch, she watched how Shego helped Nike with the household chores. Shego would carry heavy bags for Nike, help her with the farm produce, and always spoke kindly to her. Titi also saw how Shego played with Abike, lifting her up in the air and making her laugh with joy. The sight of their happy family life made Titi's heart ache with envy. Titi thought to herself, Why does Nike get to have such a perfect life? Why is she so lucky? She wished she had a husband like Shego, someone who cared for her and made her feel special. Titi's jealousy grew stronger each time she visited, and even though she tried to hide it, deep down, she wished to have what Nike had. Titi continued to visit Nike regularly, pretending to be a good friend. She smiled and laughed with Nike, but in her heart, she felt nothing but jealousy and bitterness. She could not understand why she felt this way, but she could not help herself. The more she saw Nike's happiness, the more she wanted it for herself. As Titi sat in the living room, watching Shego and Abike playing, she felt a sting of envy so strong that it made her look away. She knew she should be happy for her friend, but the feeling of jealousy was too powerful to ignore. She sighed and forced a smile, pretending everything was fine. But deep inside, she knew things were not as they seemed. And so, as the sun set and the village grew quiet, Titi's heart remained restless, filled with envy and longing. She watched Nike's family disappear into their home, their laughter echoing in the evening air, and she wondered why life had not been as kind to her. Days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. One bright afternoon, Titi made her way to Shego and Nike's farm. She had a forced smile on her face, but inside, her heart was heavy with envy. When she arrived, she saw Shego working in the fields. He was strong and hardworking, always busy tending to his crops. Titi admired him from afar, wishing he was hers. Shego saw Titi approaching and waved to her. "Good morning, Titi," he called out warmly. Titi forced a smile and waved back. "Good morning, Shego. You are such a good husband," she said as she walked closer. "Adenike is very lucky." Shego smiled kindly. "Thank you, Titi, but I am the lucky one. I have a wonderful wife and a beautiful daughter." Hearing these words, Titi felt a pang in her heart. She wanted a life like Nike's, but instead, she had always struggled. Titi couldn't help but compare her life to Nike's and feel bitter about it. While Nike had a loving husband and a happy home, Titi lived alone in a small house with no one to share her life with. Later, when Titi and Nike were sitting alone in the porch, Titi tried to hide her feelings. "Adenike, you seem so happy. How do you do it?" she asked, pretending to be curious. Nike smiled gently. "It's all about love and understanding, Titi. Shego and I work together as a team, and Abike brings us so much joy. We're a family, and we support each other in everything." Titi nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. She couldn't stop thinking about how she wanted what Nike had. "I wish I had a life like yours," she thought to herself. "Why does Adenike get to have everything?" As the days turned into weeks, Titi's jealousy grew stronger. Every time she visited Nike's home, she saw more things to envy. She watched Shego's loving gestures, the way he looked at Nike with such affection, and the way he played with Abike, making her laugh and smile. Titi saw Nike's happy smile and heard Abike's innocent laughter, and it all seemed to mock her loneliness. One evening, after another visit filled with bitterness, Titi sat alone in her small house. She couldn't stop thinking about Nike's happiness. The more she thought about it, the more her jealousy turned into anger. "Why should Adenike have all this happiness while I have nothing?" Titi whispered to herself. "I deserve to be happy too." Titi's heart grew darker as she let jealousy consume her. She began to think of ways she could have what Nike had. She started visiting more often, pretending to be a good friend while secretly harboring her envious thoughts. She watched carefully, learning about their daily routines, hoping to find a way to disrupt their happy life. Nike, unaware of Titi's true feelings, continued to welcome her friend warmly. She shared her joys and struggles, not knowing that Titi was plotting behind her back. Nike was always kind and generous, offering Titi food and a listening ear whenever she needed it. But Titi did not appreciate this kindness. Instead, she let her bitterness grow. She felt as if life had been unfair to her, giving Nike all the happiness while leaving her with nothing. Titi started to think that maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to change things. She began to dream of having a life like Nike's, with a loving husband like Shego, and a happy home filled with laughter. One day, as Titi watched Nike and Shego together, a plan began to form in her mind. It was a dangerous and wicked plan, but Titi didn't care. She was determined to have the happiness she believed she deserved, no matter the cost. She thought about all the times she had watched Nike's family, all the little details she had noticed. She believed she could use this information to her advantage. Titi stood by the window of her small house, staring out at the vast field that stretched towards the horizon. She thought about Adenike, her childhood friend, who lived on a large, prosperous farm with her husband, Shego. Titi envied Adenike's life. She wanted the comfort, the stability, and most of all, she wanted Shego. A plan began to form in her mind. It was devious, but Titi was determined to take Adenike's place. A few days later, Titi decided to visit Adenike at the farm. She wore a bright, friendly smile as she approached the house. Adenike welcomed her warmly, not suspecting anything. The two women sat on the porch, sipping cold drinks and chatting about old times. Nike talked about her family and how happy they were, while Titi listened, nodding and smiling, though her mind was filled with envy and thought of the plan. As Titi watched Nike and Shego, she knew she needed to be careful. She couldn't let anyone suspect her true intentions. She would need to be patient and clever, waiting for the right moment to strike. Titi continued to pretend to be a good friend, visiting often and offering help whenever she could. She wanted to be close to Nike and her family, to learn more about their lives and find the perfect opportunity to put her plan into action. As the days went by, Titi's visit became more frequent. She watched and waited, always looking for a chance to disrupt the peaceful life of the Adesanya family. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to have the happiness she felt was rightfully here. Titi's jealousy had turned into a burning desire to take what Nike had, and she was willing to do whatever it took to get it. With a jealous heart and a mind full of schemes, Titi set her plan into motion, ready to disrupt the peaceful life of the family. The sun rose slowly over the village, casting a warm glow on the fields and houses. Titi woke up early, feeling nervous but excited. Today was the day she would put her plan into action. She had spent weeks preparing, making sure she knew exactly what to do. She wanted to be sure that nothing could go wrong. As she got ready, Titi thought about everything that had led to this moment. She remembered the first time she saw Shego, working so hard on the farm. She remembered how she felt when she saw Adenike and Shego together, so happy and in love. The more she watched them, the more she wanted what they had. She wanted Shego for herself, and she was willing to do anything to make that happen. Titi had been very careful. She had been visiting the farm more and more often, always bringing gifts and offering to help. She made sure to be friendly and kind, always with a smile on her face. She wanted Adenike to trust her completely, so that when the time came, Adenike would never suspect a thing. Today, Titi dressed in her nicest clothes. She wanted to look her best when she went to the farm. She put on a bright, colorful dress and tied her hair back neatly. She looked at herself in the mirror and smiled. Today is the day, she whispered to herself. Today, I will take the first step to getting what I want. Titi walked to the farm, greeting everyone she met with a cheerful good morning. She wanted everyone in the village to think she was a kind and helpful person. She didn't want anyone to suspect what she was really planning. As she walked, she thought about what she would do next. She had to be very careful. She knew that one wrong move could ruin everything. When she arrived at the farm, she saw Adenike working hard in the garden. Adenike was feeding the chickens and watering the plants. She looked up and saw Titi approaching and waved happily. "Hello, Titi," Adenike said. "What a nice surprise. What brings you here?" Titi smiled back. hiding her true feelings. Hello, Adenike. I was just thinking about you and decided to come and help you with your work. I know the farm keeps you very busy. Adenike was pleased to see her friend. She appreciated the help and welcomed Titi warmly. Thank you, Titi. I could use some help. Let's work together. Titi and Adenike spent the morning working side by side. They fed the animals, watered the plants, and cleaned the chicken coops. Titi listened carefully to everything Adenike said, pretending to be very interested in learning about farm work. She asked many questions and followed Adenike's instructions carefully, making sure to appear eager and helpful. As they worked, Titi kept an eye on Shego. She watched him from a distance, studying his movements and noticing how hard he worked. She admired his strength and determination, and she knew she wanted to be by his side. Titi felt a pang of jealousy every time she saw Shego and Adenike together, laughing and talking as they walked. She wanted that happiness for herself alone. By midday, Adenike was feeling tired. She suggested to take a break and have some lunch. Let's sit under the big tree and rest. Adenike said, we can eat our lunch there. Titi nodded eagerly. This was the moment she had been waiting for. She followed Adenike to the tree and sat down beside her. Adenike took out some food from a basket she had brought and began to set it out on a cloth. Titi smiled as she watched her friend, hiding her excitement that was building inside her. Titi, would you like something to drink? Adenike asked kindly, holding out a glass. Yes, please, Titi replied. But let me get it for you. You have been working so hard. You deserve a rest. Adenike smiled and nodded, grateful for Titi's kindness. Thank you, Titi. That's very thoughtful of you. Titi went to the kitchen and took out two glasses. She poured juice into both glasses, but before she took them back to Adenike, she took out a small vial from her pocket. She looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then, with a steady hand, she poured the contents of the vial into one of the glasses. It was poison. Titi knew it would make Adenike very sick, but she didn't care. All she cared about was getting what she wanted. She stirred the juice carefully to make sure the poison was mixed well. She wanted to be sure that Adenike wouldn't notice anything different about the drink. Titi was careful not to touch the poisoned glass with her hands. She knew she had to be very careful. One mistake could ruin everything. When Titi returned to the tree, she handed the poisoned glass to Adenike. Here you go, Adenike, she said with a smile. You deserve a nice cold drink after all that hard work. Adenike took the glass and thanked Titi, not suspecting anything. She was tired and tasty, and she trusted her friend completely. Titi sat down beside her, holding her own glass. She watched Adenike closely, waiting for her to take a sip. As Adenike lifted the glass to her lips, Titi felt a surge of excitement. Her plan was finally coming together. She knew it wouldn't be long now. Soon, Adenike would be out of the way, and Titi could start working on the next part of her plan. But as she sat there, watching her friend, Titi couldn't help but feel a tiny pang of guilt. She pushed the feeling away quickly. She reminded herself that this was the only way to get what she wanted. She had come too far to turn back now. Adenike took a sip of the juice and smiled. This is very refreshing, Titi, she said. Thank you. Titi forced a smile and nodded. You're welcome, Adenike, she said softly. Anything for you. As they sat under the tree, Titi tried to keep her thoughts calm. She knew she had to be patient. She couldn't afford to rush things. She had to wait for the poison to take effect. She had to make sure everything went according to plan. After the day under the big tree, things started to change at the farm. Adenike, who was always so strong and healthy, began to feel unwell. At first, she thought it was just tiredness from all work she had been doing on the farm. She tried to rest more, thinking that a little sleep would help her feel better. But as the days went by, her condition only got worse. Adenike woke up each morning feeling weak and dizzy. She couldn't eat much and sometimes her stomach hurt. She tried to keep working on the farm, but it became harder and harder for her to do even the simplest tasks. She didn't understand what was happening to her. At first, Shegu and Abike thought it was just a small sickness. Shegu told her to rest and not to worry about the farm work. Just take it easy, Adenike, Shegu said with reassuring smile. We can handle things here while you get better. Abike also tried to help her mother. She made sure Adenike had food and water and stayed by her side as much as she could. You will feel better soon, Mama, Abike would say, trying to be brave even though she was very worried. Just rest and everything will be okay. But despite their efforts, Adenike did not get better. In fact, she seemed to be getting worse with each passing day. Her face became pale and she lost a lot of weight. Sometimes she would feel so tired that she couldn't even get out of bed. She became very weak and her hands would shake when she tried to hold something. Shegu decided it was time to call the doctor. He hoped the doctor could help Adenike feel better. When the doctor arrived, he examined Adenike carefully. He asked her questions about how she was feeling and checked her pulse and temperature. After a while, he looked very serious. Adenike is very sick, the doctor said quietly. I think it might be something very serious. She needs to rest and take some medication. But we will have to wait and see if she gets better. The doctor gave Adenike some medicines and told her to rest as much as possible. Shegu and Abike took turns staying with her, making sure she was comfortable and had everything she needed. They tried to keep her spirits up, talking to her and telling her stories. But even with the medicine, Adenike's health continued to decline. The poison Titi had put in her drink was very strong, and it had already done a lot of damage to her body. The doctors tried their best to help, but there was nothing they could do to stop the poison from spreading. Each day, Adenike grew weaker and more frail. She could barely eat or drink, and she was too tired to talk. Shegu and Abike were always by her side, holding her hand and praying for a miracle. They didn't know what was wrong, but they hoped with all their hearts that Adenike would get better. One evening, as the sun was setting, Adenike lay in bed feeling very tired. She looked at Shegu and Abike, who were sitting beside her. She could see the worry and sadness on their faces. She knew that they were scared, and it broke her heart to see them like that. Thank you for being here, Adenike said softly. Her voice was weak, but she tried to smile. She wanted them to know how much she loved them. Shegu held her hand gently. His eyes were filled with tears. We are here for you, Adenike, he said. We will always be here for you. Abike nodded, tears streaming down her face. We love you very much, Mama, she whispered. Adenike felt a warmth in her heart, even though her body was so cold and tired. She knew her time was running out, but she felt comforted by the love and support of her family. I love you both too, she whispered. Please take care of each other and the farm. It is all I ask. Shegu and Abike promised to honor her wishes. They stayed by her side, holding her hands and talking to her until she fell asleep. As the night went on, Adenike's breathing became slower and more slower. Shegu and Abike watched over her, praying silently, hoping for a miracle. In the early hours of the morning, Adenike took her last breath. She passed away peacefully, surrounded by her loved ones. Shegu and Abike were heartbroken. They had lost a dear wife and mother, someone who had been a vital part of their lives. They didn't know how they would go on without her. The news of Adenike's passing spread quickly through the village. Everyone who knew her was shocked and saddened. Adenike had been a kind and hardworking woman, loved by many. Her death left a void in the community. People came from all over to offer their condolences to Shegu and Abike. Shegu and Abike decided to organize a funeral to honor Adenike's memory. They wanted to celebrate her life and all the good things she had done. People from all over the village came to pay their respects. They shared stories of Adenike's kindness and hard work, remembering the good times they had shared with her. The day of the funeral was a bright sunny day. The sky was clear and a gentle breeze blew through the village. The church was filled with people, all there to say goodbye to Adenike. Flowers were placed around the room, filling the air with a sweet fragrance. Everyone was dressed in black, a sign of mourning and respect for the loss of a loved one. Shegu stood up to speak. His voice was heavy with emotion, and tears filled his eyes as he tried to find the right words to say. Adenike was more than a wife, he began. She was my best friend, my partner in everything. She showed us what it means to be strong and kind. She always thought of others before herself. We will all miss her every day, but we will keep her spirit alive by taking care of each other and the farm she loved so much. Abike spoke next. She was trembling with emotion, but she wanted to honor her mother with her words. Mama had a heart full of love and generosity, she said, her voice breaking with tears. She always put others before herself. She taught me everything I know. We are lucky to have had her in our lives. We promise to continue her work and keep her memory alive. The funeral was filled with tears and sorrow, but also with love and gratitude for the time they had spent with Adenike. People hugged each other, offering comfort and support. They shared stories of Adenike's kindness and the many ways she had helped others in the village. Even in her absence, Adenike's spirit seemed to fill the room, reminding everyone of the importance of kindness and love. After the funeral, Shegu and Abike returned to the farm. It felt empty without Adenike, but they knew they had to carry on. They worked together, remembering the lessons Adenike had taught them. They took care of the animals and the plants, keeping the farm running as a tribute to her. Each day was a reminder of the love and hard work Adenike had put into their home. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The pain of losing Adenike never fully went away, but Shegu and Abike found strength in each other and in their memories of her. They often talked about Adenike, sharing stories and laughing about the good times. They remembered her smiles, her laughters, and the way she always made everyone feel special. They knew that she was still with them in spirit, watching over them and guiding them as they continued their lives on the farm. As time passed, Titi started visiting Shego's house. Shego was very thankful for Titi's help when his wife was sick and even after she died, during the burial and everything. Because of this, Shego thought Titi was a good person and saw nothing wrong with being friends with her. Titi had always admired Shego. He was a kind man and a good friend to her. But as the days passed, Titi's feelings for Shego grew stronger. She wanted more than just friendship. She wanted him to love her. She wanted to be part of his life forever. Titi started visiting Shego more often. She brought him delicious food and spent time with him. Shego enjoyed Titi's company and looked forward to her visits. She made him laugh and he felt happy when she was around. However, Titi had a secret. She wasn't just bringing food to be kind. She added a charm to the food. The charm was supposed to make Shego fall in love with her. Titi hoped it would work because she wanted Shego to love her just as much as she loved him. One day, Titi came to Shego's house with a basket of warm tasty stew. She smiled as she handed it to him and said, "I made this just for you." Shego thanked her with a big smile and they sat down to eat together. The stew was delicious and Shego couldn't help but praise Titi's cooking. As the days went by, Titi continued to visit Shego. Every time she came, she brought food, and every time she added a little charm. Shego began to notice something different in himself. He found himself thinking about Titi more and more. He started looking forward to her visits and missed her when she wasn't there. He didn't understand why, but he felt happier when she was around. Titi noticed the change in Shego too. He was smiling more, and seemed more affectionate. Her plan was working. Shegu was starting to fall in love with her, just as she had hoped. One evening, as they were sitting together, Shegu took Titi's hand and said, "Titi, I feel so happy when you are around. You have brought so much joy into my life." Titi's heart raced with excitement. She had waited for this moment. "I feel the same way, Shegu," she replied softly, trying to hide her excitement. The charm had worked its magic, and Shegu's feeling for Titi grew stronger every day. Titi was overjoyed. She loved spending time with Shegu and seeing the happiness in his eyes. But sometimes, when she was alone, Titi felt a little guilty. She wondered if Shegu would have fallen in love with her without the charm. Did he truly love her, or was it just the magic making him feel this way? Despite her doubts, Titi continued to visit Shegu. She brought him food and shared many happy moments with him. Shegu couldn't imagine his life without her. Titi had become an important part of his life. One sunny afternoon, Shegu decided that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with Titi. He loved her kindness, her laughter, and how she made him feel. He wanted to ask her to be his wife, so he planned a special dinner at his house. He cooked Titi's favorite meal and set the table with candles and flowers. When Titi arrived, she was surprised to see the beautiful setup. She was touched by the effort Shegu had put in the evening. After they finished eating, Shegu stood up and took Titi's hand. "Titi," he said, looking into her eyes, "you have brought so much happiness into my life. I can't imagine my future without you. Will you marry me?" Titi's heart was filled with joy. This was the moment she had been dreaming of. "Yes, Shegu, I will marry you," she replied with a big smile. Shegu slipped a ring onto her finger and they embraced. Titi was thrilled to be engaged to Shegu, but deep down, she knew the truth. She knew that Shegu's feelings were influenced by the charm she had used. This thought troubled her, but she pushed it aside. She wanted to be happy with Shegu. Meanwhile, Abike, Shegu's daughter, noticed the change in her father. She saw how quickly he had fallen for Titi and felt something was not right. Abike was confused and upset. She loved her father and wanted him to be happy, but she couldn't understand why he was so enchanted by Titi. One day, Abike couldn't hold back her worries any longer. She decided to talk to her father. "Papa," she said softly, "are you sure about this? Do you really know Titi well enough to marry her?" Her voice was filled with concern. Shegu, still under the charm's influence, dismissed Abike's worries. "Abike, I love Titi, and I know she loves me. She makes me happy, and that's all that matters." He smiled, trying to reassure her. Abike sighed. She felt helpless. She didn't want to see her father make a mistake, but she couldn't convince him to see Titi's true nature. The charm had clouded his judgment, and he was blind to Titi's deceit. As Shegu and Titi began planning their wedding, Abike watched from the sidelines. She hoped that her father would eventually see the truth. She wanted him to be happy, but she feared that Titi's secret would one day come to light and break his heart. The morning of the wedding was beautiful. The sun was shining brightly, and the sky was clear with only a few fluffy clouds. Birds were singing in the trees, making the day feel even more special. Titi woke up early. She felt both happy and nervous. Today was the day she had been waiting for, the day she would marry Shegu and start a new life with him. In her room, everything was ready. Her beautiful white wedding dress hung on the door, waiting for her to put it on. The dress was made of soft flowing fabric with lace and tiny pearls sewn onto it. Her veil, long and white, was draped over a chair. Flowers were everywhere, filling the room with a sweet, fresh scent. Titi looked around her room and took a deep breath. "Today is the day," she whispered to herself. She felt her heart beating fast with excitement. She was about to become Shegu's wife, and she couldn't wait for their life together to begin. Downstairs, Titi's family home was buzzing with activity. Her mother was busy making sure everything was perfect. She was very proud of Titi and wanted this day to be the best day ever. She checked the flowers, the food, and every little detail to make sure nothing was out of place. Titi's friends were there too, helping her get ready. They brushed her hair and helped her put on her beautiful dress. When Titi looked at herself in the mirror, she could hardly believe it. She looked like a princess. Her friends smiled and told her how beautiful she looked. Titi felt happy and excited. She was ready for her big day. Meanwhile, at Shego's house, things were also very busy. Shego was surrounded by his friends and family. They were all smiling and congratulating him. Shego's father gave him a strong pat on the back and some advice. Always respect and love Titi. He said, a good marriage is built on understanding and respect. Shego nodded, feeling grateful for his father's words. He was excited to marry Titi and start their lives together. The wedding ceremony was held in a large, beautiful hall. The hall was decorated with lots of flowers, and their sweet smell filled the air. The guests arrived, all dressed in their best clothes, ready to celebrate with Titi and Shego. The hall was filled with excitement as everyone waited for the ceremony to begin. Shego stood at the front of the hall, looking handsome in his suit. He couldn't stop smiling. He was so happy and felt lucky to be marrying Titi. When the doors opened and Titi walked in, everyone turned to look at her. She looked stunning, her dress flowing around her like a soft cloud. Her face was glowing with happiness. Shego's heart felt full as he watched her walk towards him. The ceremony was beautiful. Shego and Titi stood together and promised to love and care for each other forever. They exchanged rings, which were symbols of their love that would never end. When the person in charge of the ceremony said, "You are now husband and wife," everyone clapped and cheered. Shego and Titi shared their first kiss as a married couple. It was a sweet and special moment, and everyone in the hall felt happy for them. After the ceremony, it was time for the reception. The hall was transformed into a lively place with music, dancing, and lots of delicious food. Shego and Titi danced their first dance as a married couple. They moved gracefully together, smiling and laughing. The guests cheered and clapped, happy to see them so in love. As the evening went on, Titi began to feel something new. She felt strong and in control. She was now married to Shego, and she was the lady of the house. She had always been strong, but now she felt even stronger. She knew that with Shego by her side, she could do anything. But Titi wanted more than just a happy marriage. She wanted control over everything. She started by making sure that Shego's daughter Abike had less time with her father. Abike was a sweet girl, but Titi saw her as someone who might get in the way of her new life. Titi began to plan things so that Abike was always busy with school or other activities when Shego was home. Slowly, Shego spent less and less time with Abike, and Titi felt like she had more control. Next, Titi turned her attention to Adenike's things. Adenike, Shego's first wife, had left behind many beautiful clothes and belongings. Titi had always admired Adenike's taste in clothes and wanted them for herself. Now that she was the wife of the house, she felt it was her right to have these things. She started by moving some of Adenike's clothes into her own closet. Abike noticed but didn't say anything. She didn't want to cause trouble. Over time, Titi took more and more of Adenike's things. She moved into the biggest bedroom, redecorated the house to her liking, and made it clear that she was in charge now. Abike, feeling sad and helpless, watched as Titi took over everything that had once belonged to her mother. Titi didn't stop there. She also began to get involved in Shego's business. She offered him advice and started making decisions about how things should be run. At first, Shego was happy that Titi was interested in his work. He began to trust her more and more with his business. Titi's influence grew, and she enjoyed her new role. She felt powerful and liked having control over the business and the household. But having power also meant facing new challenges. As the months went by, Titi became more confident in her role. She was in charge of everything at home. She made sure the house was clean, the food was cooked, and everything was in order. She also managed the money, making sure they saved enough and spent wisely. She wanted Shegu's business to do well, so she paid close attention to it, offering suggestions and making sure everything was running smoothly. One evening, after a long and busy day, Titi and Shegu sat together in their newly decorated living room. The room looked beautiful, filled with new furniture and decorations that Titi had chosen. Titi felt happy and content. She rested her head on Shegu's shoulder and sighed with satisfaction. Today was perfect, Titi said softly. She felt proud of how everything was going. She had a loving husband, a beautiful home, and a bright future ahead. Shegu smiled down at her and gently kissed her forehead. Me too, Titi, he said. I'm so happy we are married now. I can't wait to see what the future holds for us. Titi smiled back, feeling a warm glow inside her. She looked around their lovely home and thought about all the good times they would have together. She felt powerful and happy, knowing that she had a husband who loved her and a life full of promise. Abike woke up every day before sunrise. She felt tired and sore, but she had to get up quickly or Titi would be angry. She started by sweeping the whole house, making sure not to leave any dirt. Next, she went to the kitchen to wash dishes, fetch water, and cook breakfast. She missed her mother, who was kind and always helped her. One morning, while cooking, hot oil burned Abike's hand. She told Titi, hoping for comfort, but Titi just scolded her for being careless. Abike held back her tears and continued her chores. After breakfast, Titi gave her more chores to do: clean the living room, wash clothes, and water the plants. Abike worked hard all day, even though she was tired and her hands hot. When Shegu came home, he didn't notice how tired Abike was. Titi greeted him with a smile, and Shegu told Abike she was lucky to have such a good stepmother. Abike felt so sad and alone. She missed her mother, who always cared for her. Abike tried to tell her father how Titi treated her, but he didn't believe her. He thought Titi was kind, and Abike was being ungrateful. Realizing her father wouldn't help, Abike knew she had to be strong on her own. She remembered her mother's words: always keep your head up and stay true to yourself. Abike decided to hold on to those words and find strength, no matter how hard things get. Even though each day was tough, Abike kept going, hoping that one day things would get better. She knew she had the courage to endure and would not let Titi break her spirit. Abike's days were getting harder, with endless chores and Titi's constant harsh words. One afternoon, while cleaning, she heard a knock. It was Mrs. Ola, an old family friend who had always been kind to Abike. Seeing how tired Abike looked, Mrs. Ola asked what was wrong. Abike hesitated, but then shared how Titi made her do all the work and always criticized her. Mrs. Ola listened carefully and felt that this was unfair. That evening, Mrs. Ola stayed for dinner. She watched how Titi treated Abike and saw Titi's harshness firsthand. After dinner, Mrs. Ola spoke up, telling Titi that her behavior was unacceptable. Shego, Abike's father, listened and finally saw how much Abike was suffering. Shego asked Abike if it was true, and with tears in her eyes, Abike nodded. Shego felt guilty and knew he needed to make things right. He took Titi aside to talk, while Mrs. Ola comforted Abike, saying things would get better. Abike felt a mix of hope and fear, but knew she wasn't alone anymore. She hoped that this was the start of a better life. Abike had grown into a beautiful and kind young woman. She was loved by her family and liked by everyone in the village. Her father, Shego, often spoke proudly of her, and even her stepmother, Titi, had grown to care for her deeply. They were both proud of the woman Abike had become. One day, a young man visited. His name was Shego, a tall young man with a bright smile. He was polite and had come to ask for Abike's hand in marriage. Titi invited him in, and they all sat down to talk. Abike was curious about the visitor and peeked in from the kitchen. Shego called Abike to join them, and Femi introduced himself. He spoke about his job, his family, and his dreams for the future. Abike liked what she heard, but she asked for time to think about his proposal. Femi agreed to wait for her answer. In the following weeks, other suitors came. There was Ade, a successful businessman known for his kindness and generosity. Then there was Kunle, a doctor who loved helping others. Each suitor had good qualities, and Abike felt overwhelmed by the choices she had to make. Her parents sat with her each day, discussing the suitors. They wanted to help her choose wisely, but also wanted her to be happy. One morning, Abike asked her father how she would know who was right man for her. Shego advised her to listen to her heart and choose someone who made her feel happy and safe. Taking her father's advice, Abike spent more time with each suitor. She went on walks with Femi, who made her laugh and feel comfortable. She talked with Adi, who shared his dreams and showed his generous side. She visited Kunle at his clinic, where she saw his kindness towards his patients. At times, Abike found herself thinking about Femi more than the others. He was kind, caring, and always made her smile. One evening, Femi came to visit with flowers and asked Abike for her answer. Looking into her eyes, Abike felt sure of her choice. She accepted his proposal, saying she would be honored to be his wife. Femi was overjoyed, and the news of their engagement spread quickly through the village. People came to congratulate them, and the village was filled with happiness as everyone prepared for the wedding. Abike felt grateful for her family's support and the love she had found. She knew her life with Femi would be filled with joy and adventure, and she was excited to start this new chapter of her life. Abike was so excited about her relationship with Femi, a kind and handsome young man. She thought he could be the one she should marry. However, her stepmother Titi was jealous of Abike's beauty and happiness. Titi wanted all the attention and didn't like seeing Abike happy. When Femi visited, Titi would call him aside and tell lies about Abike, saying she was unkind and selfish. Femi, confused and full of doubt, started distancing himself from Abike. This happened with every suitor who came for Abike, leaving her heartbroken and wondering what she had done wrong. One day, unable to take it anymore, Abike confronted Titi, asking why she was trying to ruin her happiness. Titi coldly replied that Abike didn't deserve happiness because she wasn't her real daughter. Hurt and feeling alone, Abike decided she couldn't let Titi control her life anymore. As the days passed, Abike's sadness grew and she felt trapped in her own home. Titi continued to keep her isolated, even telling Femi that Abike didn't want to see him. Abike's father noticed her sadness and tried to help, but Abike couldn't bring herself to tell him everything. Alone in her room, Abike wished for a way out, feeling like she was a prisoner of Titi's cruelty. After her engagement with Femi ended, Abike was heartbroken. She felt betrayed by Titi's lies. Weeks went by, and Abike struggled to find joy. Meanwhile, Ade, one of Abike's former suitors, heard about the breakup. He still cared for Abike and decided to visit her. One morning, he found Abike sitting alone in the backyard. He apologized for believing Titi's lies before and said he still wanted to marry her. Abike felt hopeful again and accepted Ade's proposal. Titi, angry about their renewed relationship, tried to turn Ade against Abike with more lies. However, Ade stood firm, refusing to be swayed. He reassured Abike that they would face Titi together. Titi realized her tricks weren't working and planned to break them apart. She tried to find out what Abike and Ade were planning, but they were careful, meeting in secret. They arranged to get married in a nearby village. Titi, suspicious of Abike's secretive behavior, followed her and discovered the plan. Furious, she confronted Abike and threatened to stop the wedding. Scared but determined, Abike and Ade decided to move up their wedding date to avoid Titi's interference. Despite Titi's effort to spread lies and cause trouble, Abike and Ade remained strong. They knew they had to support each other to overcome Titi's scheme. Together, they prepared to face whatever came next, holding on to the hope of a happy future. Abike was sitting on her bed, thinking about her future with Ade. She was ready to face any challenges that came with her marriage. Suddenly, Titi knocked on the door and barged in, looking angry. Titi warned Abike to leave Ade alone, threatening to ruin her life if she didn't. Abike, though shaking, stood her ground, telling Titi that she and Ade loved each other. Titi, full of jealousy, vowed to stop their marriage. Meanwhile, Ade met with his best friend, Larry, at a cafe. Ade asked Larry to help him approach Abike's family to ask for her hand in marriage. Larry agreed and visited Abike's father, Shegun, to speak on Ade's behalf. Shegun was cautious but agreed to meet Ade. When Ade spoke with Shegun, he sincerely expressed his love for Abike and promised to take care of her. Impressed by Ade's honesty, Shegun gave his blessing for their marriage. Excited, Ade rushed to tell Abike the good news. Abike was overjoyed and they celebrated their upcoming marriage. However, Titi watched them from the shadows, angry and determined to stop them. Titi planned to spread lies and rumors about Abike, hoping to destroy her reputation and ruin their marriage. She went around the village, telling people false stories about Abike. Soon, Abike and Ede noticed people behaving strangely around them. Realizing Titi was behind the rumors, Abike and Ade decided to stay strong. They continued with their wedding plans, knowing they had to face whatever challenges Titi threw at them. They prepared themselves for a battle against Titi's schemes, determined to protect their love. The sun shone brightly on Abike and Ade's wedding day, filled the village with excitement. Everyone was eager to celebrate with the happy couple. At Abike's home, friends and family bustled around, cooking delicious food and decorating the house with colorful ribbons and flowers. Abike's wedding dress sparkled beautifully, making her feel like a princess. Abike got ready with the help of her friends, feeling overjoyed. Her father, Mr. Shegu, greeted guests with pride and happiness. However, Titi, Abike's stepmother, was jealous and unhappy. She wanted to ruin the wedding, so she tried to damage Abike's dress but was interrupted before she could do anything. Soon, it was time for the ceremony. The church was decorated beautifully, and guests eagerly awaited the bride. Ade stood at the front, excited to see Abike. As Abike walked down the aisle, Titi suddenly stood up, trying to stop the wedding by accusing Ade of being unfaithful. The guests were shocked, but Ade calmly denied the accusation, and Abike stood by his side, trusting him. The guests supported Abike and Ade, clapping for them. Realizing her plans had failed, Titi left the church in embarrassment. The wedding continued smoothly. Abike and Ade exchanged vows and rings, promising to love each other forever. The church erupted in cheers as they were pronounced husband and wife. At the reception, everyone celebrated with music, dancing, and delicious food. Abike and Ade shared their first dance as a married couple, surrounded by their loved ones. Despite Titi's attempts, their love triumphed, and they knew they could face any challenge together. As the night ended, Abike and Ade left the reception, ready to start their new life filled with love and happiness. After the wedding, Titi was unhappy and ashamed because her plan to ruin the wedding had failed. She had tried to spoil Abike and Ade's happiness out of jealousy. Titi kept to herself, feeling guilty and scared about what she had done. One night, Titi had a dream where Abike's mother, Nike, warned her to leave Abike alone. Titi woke up terrified, realizing she couldn't keep hiding the truth. She decided to confess. The next morning, Titi found Shego in the garden. She admitted to poisoning Adenike and using a charm to make Shego love her. Shego was shocked and angry, feeling betrayed by Titi's lies. He asked her to leave, needing time to think about what to do next. Titi left, knowing she had lost everything because of her actions. Shego sat alone, feeling heartbroken. He realized that he needed to confront Titi again and seek justice for what she had done. Despite the pain, he knew he had to protect his family and find a way to move forward. After Titi's confession, the house was filled with sadness. Titi became very sick, growing weaker every day. She used to be full of life, but now she was tired and quiet, lost in her thoughts. Shegu and Abike took care of her, bringing food and medicine, hoping she would recover. But Titi's condition kept getting worse. She rarely spoke, and when she did, her voice was soft and full of regret. Abike felt a mix of anger and pity, seeing Titi suffer from both illness and guilt. One evening, as the sun set, Abike sat by Titi's bed. Titi apologized for her past mistakes, and Abike told her to rest and get better. Titi admitted she didn't have much time left, but found peace in knowing that Abike and Shegu could be happy. Shegu joined them, urging Titi to keep fighting. Titi asked him to promise to take care of each other, and he agreed. The room was silent except for Titi's weak breathing. Abike and Shegu stayed with her, offering comfort. Titi took her last breath. The silence was heavy as they realized she was gone. Abike and Shegu cried, knowing Titi had tried to make amends before she died. They buried Titi in the village cemetery. Despite the pain she had caused, they chose to remember her efforts to change. Shegu and Abike supported each other, determined to heal and move forward with their lives. After Titi's death, Shegu felt free from the troubles of the past. He knew he had to make things right with Abike. One day, he visited her and apologized for not being there for her when she needed him the most. Abike forgave her father and they started to rebuild their relationship again. Over the next few weeks, Shegu spent more time with Abike and her family, helping out and offering support. Their bond grew stronger. One evening, Shegu joined them for dinner, feeling content and grateful for this new beginning. As they sat together, Shegu promised to always be there for Abike. She smiled, happy to have her father back in her life. They knew there would be challenges ahead, but they were ready to face them together with love and support. The village returned to peace, and Shegu, Abike, and their family looked forward to a brighter future, embracing the chance to start anew. The most important lesson in this story is that people should be content in life because it helps them appreciate what they have and avoid problems caused by greed or jealousy. Being content brings peace and happiness, while always wanting more can lead to stress, mistakes, and unhappiness. And with that, my dear friends, our story comes to a close. But remember, the magic of storytelling lives on, waiting to whisk us away on new adventures, where the wonders of imagination know no bounds. Goodbye for now, and may your dreams be filled with joy, wonders, and endless possibility. Thank you so much for watching. Please kindly comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting stories.